Okay, hi Addy. Welcome to lesson number 55. This lesson is going to be really fun. The first thing that you're going to do is go over some improper fractions to solve. So you have that to do, okay? And then we're going to jump right into the lesson, and the lesson is going to be great because it goes over common denominators. So when you're adding and subtracting fractions, as you know, you need to find a common denominator. You do that by finding the least common multiple, and then you change that to the least common denominator, and you're going to rename one of the fractions so that you can add them. Stuff you already know, so enjoy the nice review, okay? Have fun, Addy. Bye. Hi, Addy. Welcome to lesson number 55. You should have done your improper fractions to simplify by now, so that's fun. That's fun. Good job on doing that. All right. So now we're going to get into this lesson, and this is awesome because we're going to talk about common denominators. And I know, Addy, that you already did a lot of this last year, and so it's okay. Just enjoy it because don't worry, your math is going to get really challenging really fast. So when it does, you're going to be ready. So consider this a review of common denominators. Okay, here we go. Start out with this. So this guy's saying 15, 16, 17. Looks like we have 17 sheep. Do you want to round them up now? And this guy's saying, okay, we have 20 sheep. Right? Because this guy wanted to round them up. I don't think he meant round up the number, but that's what this guy did. He said, okay, we have 20 sheep. It's hilarious, right? Okay, so hope you enjoyed that. We are going to jump right into the rest of mental math. Okay, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to count by sevens from 7 to 84. Oh man, I don't even have my calculator with me, and so I'm going to have to do this the hard way. Oh, you know what? I don't know that I can. I'm going to just pause here and get my calculator. So for mental math, we're going to count by sevens from 7 to 84, and I put all of these things here to help us do it so that we can, figure it out as we go. So here we go. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49, 56, 63, 70, 77, 84. All right, were you able to do it with me? Cool. Let's go on to the rest of mental math, and I gave you some beautiful nature pictures to look at while you do it. The first one is 8 times 325. Write your answer. B is 329 plus 50. Write your answer. C is going to be 375 minus 99. Okay, what about D? D is going to be $12.50 minus $5. E, what if you double 3.5? F, what is 600 divided by 20? I remember I was going to show you something on this one, Addy. Remember how you can cancel things out that are on the top and the bottom? So the reason I can do that, like here, is because it's kind of like 60 times 10 and 2 times 10 on the bottom. And so this is the equivalent of 1. So this is what you learned to do that last time. So that problem can be simplified to 60 over 2. But I just kind of do that in my head by crossing out a 0 on the top and the bottom. All right, that's enough clues. Let's do G. And I love this GIF right here of the lightning. Isn't it beautiful? And look how big it is because the house is like right there. That is so cool, I think. Okay, we're going to start out with 8 times 5. Now add 2. Divide by 6. Multiply by 7. Add 7. Divide by 8. Multiply by 4. And divide by 7. Alrighty, let's jump into problem solving. Okay, problem solving goes over some volumes here. So it says half of a gallon, so like half of a gallon of milk, is called a half gallon. Okay, so I put a gallon here. I don't really have a picture of a half gallon, so I just kind of cut that in half, and there's half of it. So that's a half gallon, okay? And then it says half of a gallon, so half of this, is a quart. So if you cut that in half again, it would be a quart. Half of a quart is a pint. So if you cut that in half, you get a pint. Half of a pint is a cup. If you cut that in half, you get a cup. How many cups of water equals a gallon of water? So how many of these are in this? Ooh, that is a little tricky. I'm going to let you figure this one out this time, and maybe on the next lesson, I will introduce you to the gallon man, which I showed Danny, and he can do this like in his head super quick. So I think that'll be useful to teach you about the gallon man, but for now, I'll let you go through this. Half of this is this, half of that is this, half of that is this, half of that is this, and then figure out how many of these are in here, okay? And I'm going to move on. You're definitely going to have to pause it there. And I'm going to move on to the new concept. Okay? So basically, this is going to be so fun. Isn't that wonderful? It's going to be so fun. We're going to talk about common denominators. When the denominators, remember that's obviously the bottom number, when the denominators are equal, we say that the fractions have common denominators. The fractions 3/5 and 2/5 have common denominators. So this is how you can look at it with your fraction, what's it called? What's the word I'm thinking of? The manipulatives. Okay, so this is 1, 2, 3/5, and this is 2/5, okay? Now, these fractions, 3/4 and 1/2, do not have common denominators because these denominators are not the same number. So I'm going to put do not right here have common denominators. So because 4 and 2 are not equal. So that's easy for you to see. 4 and 2 are not equal. They don't have common denominators. Now, fractions that do not have common denominators, what you can do is you can rename them so that they do have common denominators. Because the thing that's cool about having common denominators is, what if you wanted to add these together? What if you wanted to add it together? All you have to do to add it is 3/5 plus 2/5 equals, you keep the same common denominator and you just add the numerators. It would be 5/5. So that makes it super easy to add. But when they don't have common denominators like this and you want to add 3/4 plus 1/2, well, you can't do that with fractions until you make the denominators the same, okay? You can multiply them, but you just can't add them until you make the denominators the same. So what you have to do is you make them have the same denominator because you rename one of them, okay? So let's go over how to rename it. So we know that 2/4 is the same as 1/2, because this was the 1/2 that we had before, but the 2 and the 4 are not the same denominator. So if we want to make this the same denominator, then we make this one a 4, and how much out of a 4 makes a half? Well, it's 2/4, because it's kind of like if we were splitting it like this. Okay, and then you have 1/4 on the top and 1/4 on the bottom, and total is 2/4. So now it's easy because now you can add 3/4 and 2/4 and you would get 5/4, right? Fractions with common denominators can be easily added. So easy to do. So what you do is you've got this 3/4 over here, and the fraction is 3/4. Now we want to add to it 2/4. Whoops, that's funny. That's all right. I'll just put a big add sign. So 3/4 plus 2/4. Okay, and when you add those, the denominators stay the same, and you just add the numerators, and you get 5/4. Easy peasy, Addy? I think you've got that. Now, so to add or subtract fractions that don't have a common denominator, what do you have to do? This guy's asking, what if you want to add or subtract fractions that don't have a common denominator? Well, easy peasy, sir. All you have to do is do 3 easy steps. First, you're going to rename one of the fractions so that you do have a common denominator. And then you add, and then you simplify the answer. Okay? So first we're going to rename. So the first step is rename so that they do have a common denominator. Anything, Addy, that I put in a thought cloud, as you know by now, is something that you have to remember. You don't have to memorize the exact words, but you definitely have to know the concept that is inside there. So to rename a fraction, what you do is you multiply by a fraction that is equal to 1. So that's something that we've been doing, okay? So let's look at this. We've got 1/2 right here. This is the one that we want to rename. So let's multiply it by a fraction that is equal to 1. Now, we want the denominator to end up being the same. So I want it to end up being 4. What do I need to multiply 1/2 by so that the denominator is 4? So this denominator is 2. 2 times what is 4 is going to be 2 times 2. So now you do the same thing to the top and the bottom. So if I multiply it by 2/2, that's basically the same thing as multiplying it by 1. Remember that? So when you multiply it by 2/2, you multiply straight across. So here, 1 times 2 is going to be 2. And 2 times 2 is going to be 4. So step 1, when you want to rename a fraction, we're going to do that for step 1. Rename the fraction so that they have common denominators. So now my problem is 2/4 plus this 3/4. So I'm just going to bring that over there, and I'm going to make this plus 3/4 because we didn't do anything to change that 3/4. And now I'm just going to add up and down right here. So that's step 2, is to add. And you're going to do that this way. So 2/4 plus 3/4 ends up being 5/4 because the denominator stays the same. You just add the numerator. The last step is we simplify this answer. So you can see that this is an improper fraction. So to change it to a mixed fraction, it's going to be 1 1/4. And I think you already know how to do that. Okay? So to find the common denominator of 2 fractions, what you do, because sometimes you don't know, well, what denominator should I pick? You find a common multiple of the denominators. Remember what multiple means? It's like a multiple of 4 is the numbers that you say when you count by 4s. 4, 8, 12, 16. A multiple of 6 are the numbers that you say when you count by 6s. 6, 12, 18, 24. The least common multiple is going to be the one that you want to pick. It's the least common denominator of the fractions, okay? So here we go. Let's just do some examples. Okay, least common denominator, this is another thing in a thought cloud, just to go back for a second. This is something that you need to know. Sometimes they say, what's the LCD, or what's the least common denominator between these 2 fractions? So look at the denominators, find the multiples, and see which one is the lowest of all the multiples. That's going to be your least common denominator. Okay, here's an example. We're going to do the example on page 295, and they want us to subtract 1/2 minus 1/6. So those denominators are not the same, so we're going to have to rename one of those denominators. So let's go through and see how to do it. Let's read this. The denominators are, what are they going to be? Are 2 and 6. The way they are, the denominators are 2 and 6. The least common multiple of 2 and 6 is what? So is there a number? And the way I try and figure it out is I usually take the largest one, which is the 6. Find all the multiples of 6. So you know that they are things like 6, 12, 18, 24, right? So which one of these can also be a multiple of 2? And you can see that the 6, just the one at the very beginning, is also, it's a multiple of 6 and it's a multiple of 2. So this is the least common multiple. So the least common multiple of 2 and 6 is 6. So that means 6 is going to be the least common denominator. Okay? So I want to end up with something that is a fraction over 6. And the same with both of them. I want both of them to have the same fraction over 6. So I'm going to start out with 1/2. What do I need to multiply by so that I get 2 times what is 6? So you can see that I'm going to have to multiply by 3, because 2 times 3, if I multiply straight across, 2 times 3 is 6. You have to do the same thing to the top and the bottom, so the top has to be 3. That way, when they're both the same, what that means is you're basically just multiplying it by 1, and you're not changing the value of that fraction. So 1 times 3, we're going to put that answer there, is 3 over 6. So can you see how 1/2 is the same as 3 over 6? Yes, you can. Easy peasy. Now this other fraction already has a denominator of 6. So I don't need to change that, but I do need to remember that it's a subtraction problem. So we're doing 3/6 minus 1/6, okay? And so let's go through the steps that we did so far. First, we rename. Then we add or subtract. In this case, it's subtraction. So what's 3/6 minus 1/6? 3 minus 1 is 2/6. The last step that we do here is we reduce the fraction. So 2/6 is the same as 1 over 3. And this is our final answer. Let's go back to the original problem and make sure it makes sense. 2/6 minus 1/6 is 1/3. So that's cool. Yeah, that's really cool. And once you get really good at it, you'll just be changing this in your head. 1/2, you'll be changing it to 3/6. Wait, did I do that right? Oh, 3/6 minus 1/6 is 2/6, which is 1/3. I thought I got it wrong for a second, but no, that's right. Alrighty. So Addy, that is the end of your lesson for today. That's all there is to it. I hope you enjoyed it and have a great time doing your math today. Love ya. Bye.